Hey Anthony, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Adnan. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for being on, and I'm glad we're able to connect and talk today. Today we'll be talking about your book called "The Power of Giving and Gratitude," and we're kind of doing it backwards. But welcome to the Ozark Mountain Publishing Author Series, and I'm very excited to talk to you today. So, like I always do, let's start out with a little bit of your background and your little background information before we get into the book, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity to tell people more about my book and what led to it. But essentially, I had for roughly 25 years, I had actually followed a path in business that led me to sales and management, marketing, customer service type roles. That finally, after 25 years, I decided, you know what, I want to do my own thing. So in 2014, I started my own company, which is called Core, Creating Our Reality, in which I'm now a keynote speaker. Have the good fortune of speaking different parts around the country. Hope to go international soon. Do a lot of employee training and consulting work for both businesses and nonprofits. And one of the great things that having your own business allows you to do is that you're able to not only focus on what it is you're trying to grow, but also to be able to kind of expand your thoughts and your reach. So ultimately, I started writing my book. And since that time, man, I have to tell you, I'm really very proud in all honesty. But I'm more excited about it because I really think the content inside can really help a lot of people. And to this point, I've gotten really just a lot of nice reviews and a lot of nice comments from people. And again, just really, really excited about the book.
And so, wanted to ask you, so were you always more prone to, kind of think outside the box? You're like, okay, how can I help myself? What can I do to make things, kind of work for me? Or is it more of a learned experience through some difficulty that some people usually have in their lives or whatnot? Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, personally, my wife will tell you, man, I have some real wild and crazy thoughts. So I do, and I have for a long time. Believe I kind of think outside the box in a lot of situations, and I'm very big on looking at things from an understanding perspective. Perspective is quite possibly my favorite word, just because it allows you to see things just from different angles, to take a different approach. So if you're stuck in a rut, we have a tendency when we're going through situations to look at things like right up here, super close. But perspective allows you kind of just to kind of adjust and see things from a different angle and a different point of view. So for me, it kind of came naturally to do that. But in terms of other people, we all have that ability. Sometimes, and I think a real key to developing that is to allow yourself just to slow down and process a little bit and take the time. I know we're all rush all the time. And gosh, the last 10, 15 years seems to have gotten just magnified so much. But if you could slow yourself down and allow yourself that opportunity, it'll really make a difference.
And so when you started your own business and then you found this time and had more ability to then be able to put the book together, how did that come about?
Yeah, it was it was a long process. In all honesty, the book it was written up here for a while, but between the research and then receiving the permission to use certain comments and quotes and references within the book, to finding a publisher, quite frankly, it took a while. And gosh, I just feel so fortunate that Ozark took the chance, on me and allowed me, to go forward and actually achieve this dream of mine. But yeah, it was a process. It took me roughly, I want to say, from the time I started writing to getting an agent to not using that agent because she couldn't find me a publisher to connecting with Ozark, gosh, for roughly 3 years. So, again, for a long time, it was written, less, alterations and editing that had to be done. But it did take me a while, but I wouldn't have changed a moment for it.
So, what would be kind of the core principles of this book? What it is that you were wanting to people to know about?
Yeah, I want people to understand. Everybody's seen a lot of books on gratitude, and we've also seen a lot of books on giving. And to me, they're really kind of I wouldn't say interchangeable, but they're very closely related. So I kind of took the approach of trying to understand better what it is that giving and gratitude does, not only for me, but for other people. So yeah, I really wanted to take that approach. It's something I've always been passionate about. I love helping others when I can. I love, or I'm always very thankful for what I have versus the things that maybe I don't. So one of the things I wanted to help people to understand is, hey, you know what? It's not just me or some guy or some woman saying, oh, you should be more thankful. Oh, you should give more. No, you know what? It's not just somebody's opinion anymore. It's scientific fact that the powers that giving and gratitude offers to people include, gosh, increased physical, mental, emotional health. I cite studies and papers from places like Harvard University, uh, Barbara Fredrickson. She is the professor of psychology at the University of North Carolina. There are studies from Hofstra University, articles published in Psychology Today that all really focus on it and promote the fact that, hey, you know what? Giving and gratitude, while it's very nice, of course, to do these things, they help you. And when they help you, it allows you to better help others. And not only directly, but indirectly, because when people see us practicing these virtues, then they suddenly recognize the fact that, hey, you know what, I could do this, or I could do even more. Let me take advantage of this, and let me take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, and really try to make a difference in people's lives. So for me, it was a matter of doing that research, tying in some personal stories and things that happened in my life. I also, in writing the book, actually sent it out on Facebook to my network and said, hey, can you guys give me an example of when you've practiced giving and gratitude and what it meant and what ultimately happened? So people will read a couple of stories in the book from people who wrote in and told me their stories. Kind of try to trip it up with a little bit of humor, mixed in, kind of like to keep it interesting for people to read about. And that's ultimately where it came from.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a very, a great win-win situation because for one, you're helping someone else while helping yourself at the same time. And even if you don't realize that, you're kind of tricking yourself into, making changes without realizing it.
Yeah, it's so true. And if you're not careful, you just might realize that you really like to do this stuff too. Not only for yourself, because when you practice these virtues with sincerity, right? It's not a matter of saying, hey, I dropped 32 cents in a jar today at the convenience store. Where's my stuff? What good is going to happen for me? Right? It has to be practiced with sincerity and with a sincere desire to make a difference and impact others. And when you do that, gosh, just so many doors open for you, so many new experiences, so many new people come into your life. It doesn't happen overnight, so I'm not trying to present it as such, but when you get into the habit and you get to the practice of practicing gratitude and being sincerely thankful for what you have. It's not just, here's the thing, if I could just expand on this for a moment.
Sure.
It's not just saying, okay, thank you for my house, thanks for my car, thanks for my spouse, but it's really getting into the emotion that's behind it, and looking around and recognizing, wow, you know what, while a lot of people, including myself at times, have taken this for granted, this is not a guarantee in life. I'm really fortunate to have what I do have. And when you look at it from a global perspective, if you take the time to really think about that and compare what's here in your life versus what other people have around the world, whew, We are just so rich, beyond comparison. And once you understand that, you really feel the emotion, it's behind, gratitude.
So I guess will that process in a way, um, I don't know, it's not probably the turn of maybe most people still won't remember, but it's like, are you almost like Miyagiing yourself into, even though it's a service to others by giving, but at the same time you kind of like helping you change your habits and things that got you in trouble to begin with. Is that kind of like that kind of a process? Do you understand what
Well,
I mean? Where you think you just, you're here, you are doing something for somebody else, but in reality you're seeking healing for yourself too.
yeah, and that's the amazing thing about giving to others, and you, while outwardly it's like, oh, how nice, he's giving money, or he's, helping build a home, or donating some clothes. On the surface, that's wonderful. That's a nice thing, obviously, for people to do. But to your point, to your question, yeah, it affects you. Um, it, or I'm not going to speak for everybody. It affects me. Let me just say that that when I do, things like that, and tie that in with things that I have in my life, then the giving and the benefit, yeah, it's certainly for other people out there, no doubt, but really does some great things for me inside, uh, in terms of just feeling good, and changing my perspective, and um, just the way I just go about business and life. Just thinking about when I give and what it means to others. Just for me, once you allow yourself to step back and really think about the effect that you've had, it's not like you saying, "Oh wow, look at me, I'm a great person for doing this," but it's really getting into the sensation of being able to help and being able to make a difference, and helping people to understand just how powerful we are individually.
For someone who's more awkward about certain situations, who's kind of has a difficult time even just saying hello to someone else, not to mention, giving or helping in some way, are there steps or are there specific guidance as to how can one start out doing that?
Yeah, start out small. Just do one little thing, and here's the thing. And I write about this in the book. Money is a great way, and a needed resource in terms of giving, and practicing and helping others. So please don't get these following statements wrong, because I recognize and understand the power that money has in the whole role of giving. But gosh, you could also give your time. You could also give your energy and your attention to somebody, right? Maybe there's a neighbor, or maybe there's somebody who's really shy at work, that you just decide to go up and engage with and help that person, because obviously, obviously they're uncomfortable, or they're just not confident enough to start interacting with others. So when you give things like your time and your attention and your energy, those are seemingly little things, but to that person that you're giving it to, just means the world. So I always say, start out slow. Um, don't expect drastic changes in your life immediately, and really you shouldn't. Yeah, and this is one of the things I write about in terms of giving. That a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this in the past too, and I still have to sometimes just kind of remind myself, I'm not giving for the sake of getting that pat on the back, for the sake of getting, somebody to say thank you, for the sake of recognition. I'm giving because it just feels like I want to lift people up. I want to help people, improve in their situations. So try not to think about, okay, great, now what's in it for me, right? No, you giving for the sake of giving, for the sake of helping, for the sake of making a difference in somebody else's life. And to me, that's just so powerful.
Anthony, do you by any chance, well, you probably do, but I was wondering, is there any kind of, because we didn't discuss this before, so I don't want to put you on the spot. That's why I'm getting
Okay.
that. Are there any stories that kind of come forth that you can maybe tell us about?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share one. I'll share one with the book, from the book. it was actually an article that appeared, I believe it was 2000. And I'm sorry, the year is a little foggy. I believe it was 2009. It appeared in GQ magazine, and it's about a gentleman who is from New York, right? And I can relate. In case you couldn't tell by the dialect, I'm a native New Yorker, and he talks about the gentleman in the article. He talked about how living in Brooklyn, it was very frustrating because it seemed like every time he'd turn a corner, there's somebody, with their hand out. Hey, help me out, help me out, help me out. And he was always like, and I think a lot of us fall into this. Okay, well, what's your angle? Is this real? Can I, are you trying to trick me? Am I going to feel foolish, giving you something afterwards? And he decided that for a whole year, that whenever anybody asked for help in a financial way, he would reach into his pocket and give them the smallest denomination of money that he had on him. Now, it could be just a few cents, right? It could be $1 or $5. But again, thinking about, unfortunately, the number of people, in this case in New York, who are very challenged in that way and are living on the streets or having difficulties. What if he just hit an ATM? Does that mean he has to give $20 bills to random people that may or may not use it for what he's hoping? Yes. And that's exactly what he did. So he went on for a year, and he just was just handing out money to people, whenever they asked. He never put himself at any kind of risk in terms of financially. But that said, he also never said no. So he went through the process for a year. The article points out, what a difference it made to him in terms of his thinking, and not to mention, of course, the people that he helped out in the process.
That's if I may actually just remembered something that my previous job, I was always having this conversation slash argument with my coworkers about.
Okay.
So long time ago, I can't say everyone else, would be doing this, but I was kind of in a very, very same process. I was like, okay, I'm done with college. I'm working this job. It's okay, but why am I here? That
Right.
type of thing.
Right.
And so I progressed with some other things that, just were phenomenal in my life after that. But in that process of learning these different things, come these different ways that you always known about, but never took seriously,
Yeah.
like giving, right? And so one thing I was always doing is I was driving from St. Louis to where I live, and it's about 50 miles. And
Mhm.
so I would constantly see these people that are walking, and they're walking on the highway or the side of the highway, whatever. And the ones that would, generally kind of like ask for a lift, I would stop and give them a lift. And I would drive them up to maybe my 50-mile marker. Sometimes I'll go past it if it was the next town over, but it was
Right.
something that I wanted to do.
Sure.
I really did not care for any reward or anything. It was something about like, I always heard about people, giving others rides. And then of course I would go to work. You're like, oh my God, no, don't do that. You're going to
Right.
get killed. They're going to rob you. They're going to do this. And I
Sure.
said, listen, I understand. And I'm not saying I'm, what's the word? Kind of throwing my life away, but it's like, I'm single. I'm driving to my cabin in the woods. There's no one that's gonna, be affected immediately, like wife or children or anything like that. Of course, friends and, mom and dad would be upset if something were to happen. But the point was, I did not care, and they
Right.
could not understand that part. Every time they're like, did you pick up any hitchhikers today? And so, there were so many times that people I found out that I was right there at the perfect spot where they needed me to be.
Mm.
Because one time there was this guy walking, he had like maybe, 20 Walmart bags walking. It was like 95 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And I stopped. I said, do you need a ride? He's like, thank you so much,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he had another 10 miles to go. And
Oof.
all it was, his vehicle broke down, all this. He told me the whole story, and it
Yeah.
was, great. But if I didn't stop, maybe somebody else would have, right? But
Sure.
it wasn't just about whatever, it wasn't just, it was like you were heaven sent to that person, and it made me realize that there is like something higher at play. But what was
Right.
very interesting, and this is the part where everyone else I think concentrates on, but it's not something that's really, really that important, because they always look at the opposite of what occurs, meaning
Sure.
like a reward coming back to you.
Sure.
So I often, I was always like running my gas tank empty, and I was always, usually have like a 2 gallon of gas in the trunk. I fill that up to make it to the next station, and
Sure.
so in this one particular time, my gas can was empty, and I'm running low, and I'm like, will I be able to make this? So I'm trying to go, and the car starts stuttering. I stop. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get gas. I honest to God did not have any thought of anything happening, or like, where's my help now, whatever. It was literally like, all right, I gotta get the can, let's go get some gas. I
Sure.
had I had just gotten the gas can, started walking. I didn't take like 2 steps. It was like rain started falling and
Right.
everything. And at that same instance, a truck just pulls right up. It's like, hey buddy, do you need a lift? I was like, yeah, and the guy drove me 5 miles down, filled up the gas can, and drove me back,
Yeah.
and it only took like about, whatever, like 10 minutes or so altogether. And, it was this, I couldn't have, planned it out any better if I, intentionally tried to have an outcome like that. But the
Sure.
point was, it was like, it felt good because now it made me understand how others felt when I stopped to help them out in some way. And
Mm.
anyway, so it's not about me, but talking, as you were
Yeah.
talking about these stories, I remember that part. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean, what effect it has on you.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously, you want to. I'm a big believer, and I'm finally starting to do this in my life of actually trusting my instincts. So, when you come in your situation, I think that's wonderful that you do that. Yeah, I'm always a little bit on the. I don't know if there's the right word or not to say in relation to that story. Uh, Cautious, skeptical, concerned kind of side, right? Where
Right.
it says, where if there's an obvious situation you could help, great, help out. But if there's even this little bit of amount of doubt that says this could put me in danger, then trust that instinct, right? Follow
Right.
that voice. But yeah, to your point, yeah, you just feel good because of the sake you're making a difference. You're helping people out, and we all need help from time to time. I don't care, if you're seen, if you're of celebrity status or a CEO of a major company, or you're, a millionaire or a billionaire, whatever the case is, right? We all need help sometimes. And sometimes it is that lift to the store. Sometimes it's handing out a few bucks. And sometimes it's just listening. Just makes such a difference for people.
So, Anthony, would it be the right thing to say that you are also a motivational speaker?
I am, yes. Yes, I am.
So, if I may ask you then, so when you go to these different places, and if you could maybe name off a few, if you can, if not, that's all
Sure.
right.
Sure.
What is it that you maybe have noticed, or they ask you to talk about that they, meaning as a company, are struggling? Is it like that they just can't? Is it like to help motivate individual people, or just kind of help motivate groups?
Sure.
What is that like?
Yeah, it varies. And one of the things I like to, one of the ways I like to think anyway, that I'm a little different, is that while I have consistent things I'll talk about, for example, I'm very big into mindset. I'll touch on perspective, to varying degrees in a talk. To me, it's about customization. So going to the person, that hiring person, saying, okay, what's important to you, right? What do you need? Is it something where I should focus on a few individuals in the audience as far as the message, or is it something the whole company needs to hear, or a nonprofit? And from there, I write, all my own speeches. Like I said, I customize them. I write them specifically for that group based on that feedback and based on that information. And yeah, I got to tell you, it is just so fulfilling. Yeah, and people, even if you've spoken as a coach to a little league, or to a small group in your neighborhood, to being a speaker, who gets hired and paid for stuff like that, it is so fulfilling that when you give your message and you tie it in, with the message that that company needs, or that nonprofit needs to hear, that as the speaker, you're looking out at everybody and all eyes are on you. But for me to see that head nod, right? And to see,
Mhm.
people saying, yeah, yeah, and I'll prompt them other ways as well. But, to see that and feel that and experience that, it's just fantastic. So to your point, whatever it is that's important to the client is what's important for me. Bottom line, if it's in my area where I could, effectively speak and communicate on that, fantastic. If it's not, I'll certainly let you know that as well. I don't want to embarrass the person hiring me. I certainly don't want to embarrass myself. And bottom line, if you're doing this from the point of view of making difference in people's lives, and don't get me wrong, I love to get paid as much money as I can, as often as I can. Right. So
Right.
it's not totally, a charitable kind of thing. But, within that framework, when you could give people that right message, and pick them up and make them feel good. I had a woman, gosh, it's maybe 2.5 weeks ago. Uh, as a follow up after my talk, I sent out an email to the audience. It wasn't a big audience, about 40, 35, 40 people. I sent out an email to all of them, saying thank you for your time and all that. Remember what we talked about, and I kind of highlighted a thing or two. I sent it out to everybody, and you usually don't get anything back. Maybe you get, oh, thank you very much, something like that. But this one woman went into how, I'm gonna, the things that you spoke about really hit home, and I'm really gonna start practicing those, and try to make things even better in my life, than they are now. And I was just like, I mean, that just made, if not my day and week, probably my month and maybe even my year. So when you get that feedback, it helps you to realize that, hey, you know what? The message, it helps to remind you that the message is just so important. Make sure you get that right. And again, it's just a great experience.
Also, I don't mean to change the subject. I just, was thinking about, a lot of us always think of if we're helping or if we are giving somebody else, but you never really stop to realize what about our own family members? That
Mm,
are just that we always take for granted all the time because they're around us all the time or
sure.
whatever. It's like that's one I guess aspect of that could lead to a lot of happiness just being there for family too.
Yeah, it really does. And, somebody like myself, right? When I'm able to go out and share these messages and all that stuff, and for for me internally and with my family, it's kind of like, okay, they thinking I'm going into like, speaker mode here, or how can I make sure that they understand that, look, I'm being real about this.
Right.
This isn't just to, say something that sounds great. It's to really help and to really make a difference. Family is always a challenge, right? Because your family knows you best. Um, but that said, sometimes you have to overcome an obstacle of people thinking one way, and get them to see you really in a different light in a lot of situations. You know, we get so comfortable around our family, whether it's your own, where you have a spouse and kids, or your family from when you were growing up. You kind of fall into those roles when you get together. Like me, I'm the youngest of five, and for the longest time, whenever we'd all get together, I'd find myself kind of falling back into the quiet kind of, well, I'm the baby of the family. I need to be quiet. And ultimately, I realized, hold on, I'm an adult and I have some experiences, and I might actually be able to help. You know, give your thoughts, right? Be confident in that. Confidence is such a tricky thing. Um, One of the things that I touch on in the book is about meditation and visualization. And I don't go into them too deeply, but one of the things I meditate on when I do is CFCF, and that is clarity in my thoughts, focus to be able to execute on that clarity that I was seeking. Confidence, that's probably the biggest one. Confidence in myself that even if I'm not 100% successful, that I'll learn something from it and grow from there. And then faith, whether that faith is in God or a higher power. For me, it's yes, faith in myself, of course, but it's also faith in. I'm also like a law of attraction kind of person, so faith in the universe and faith in God above they'll drive me to the direction I need to be in. So, but when you visualize and when you really focus on things like confidence, and then just kind of let it go, it really, really makes a difference. I mentioned visualization as well. It's awesome. There's a study that I referenced in the book that talks about visualization and the power that visualization can hold. And this particular study was called Finger Flex. And it's basically taking your finger and flexing it like that. And over a period of time, there were two groups. There were people who physically flexed their finger, and there were people who mentally flexed their finger. There was nothing physical done. It was all seeing that process in your mind of actually the finger bending and flexing and back and forth. And after the study was over, the people who physically saw an increase in strength from flexing their finger was 53% increase in their strength. The people who just visualized it saw a 35% increase in strength in that finger. Not from doing it, but from visualizing it. Right? So you want to talk about mindset. You want to talk about the power of your mind and what it is that you can do and the unlimited capability we all have. I mean, that's just one of probably hundreds, if not thousands of studies that show similar results. So very, very cool.
Yeah, I think also there's a little bit of a challenge to overcome of programming on each individual level. Excuse me, because it's the simple things that we just take for granted and say, well, that's too simple and we don't follow up on it. They're like, oh, how do I, attract more love in my life? It's like, well, do you love people? Do you tell the people in your life, do you love them?
Right.
And so I think it also, yeah, it's kind of like that it's because it's so simplistic, people don't take the time.
Yeah.
They just don't, just someone who's constantly frustrated, and everyone always says just relax, breathe. It's the most common thing that everyone says, but how many people actually stop for a second to
Yeah.
relax and breathe?
Yeah.
And
Not
so
enough of us.
yeah, so it's interesting you say that. So just kind of like pay attention to, even the most simplest things can get you somewhere.
Yeah, and then this is not my area of expertise, so let me be clear about that. But in terms of attracting love and finding love in your life, I really kind of feel though it starts with the love you have for yourself. That's just my personal opinion, right? But you have to have a healthy respect and a healthy love, for yourself. And then when you have that, at least to some degree, that's when I think those doors will open. And again, just to be clear, that's not my area of expertise. That's just a personal
Right.
opinion thrown in. But it's something I believe.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying. So if was there ever, like, in your research, was there ever an instance of a person that the story that you heard or know about, that it was a much more difficult process than it really had to be, for somebody that really wanted to change but really saw this as this big thing that they just could not get?
Yeah. To answer your question, nothing specifically comes to mind. However, what I will say, and just to remind people about, is that and I think I touched on this earlier. The changes that you may be seeking, they're not going to happen overnight, right? So what you might see as a failure because it didn't happen like that, right, is really not a failure, but it's part of the process of getting you to where you need to be. So, I think depending on your definition, we've definitely all failed, right, in certain aspects and achieving certain goals and certain ambitions that we want to have in our life. But have we really? Or is it just that it's just not the right time? Because if you're so convinced and so focused and so positive about being able to achieve something, let's say, whether it's a career or otherwise, are you staying true to that process? Are you still focusing your energy and efforts towards succeeding? Not what you haven't done, but to ultimately to seeing what can be, what will be, right? I mentioned about visualization and meditation, and one of the things that's been beneficial for me is actually seeing the outcome of something before it actually happens. And it's seeing the outcome that I desire, right? So prior to giving a speech, I'll always in my mind see people laughing, people nodding their heads, people being engaged, people afterwards applauding, coming up to me and making a kind comment. That's something that I always want to throw out there and see and visualize. And when I do that, it helps me to get through the process of what it is I'm doing, in that case, speaking. It just makes that whole process actually so much easier because in my mind, all that good stuff at the end is definitely happening. So it brings me kind of a calm before I get up and start speaking with people. And again, so to your point, sometimes it's a matter of just not saying or labeling something right away. This has failed. This doesn't work. Right? Giving yourself the true amount of time to kind of follow through and make sure that you do everything that you can do to see that become a success in your life.
So, Anthony, are there any other aspects or processes that I don't know to ask you that are in your book that you could maybe expand on?
No, I mean, honestly, we've really kind of covered a lot of what the book is based on, Adnan. So thank you for that. Um, the thing that I always do, or the thing that I have in the book, are something called TTAs, which are things to accomplish. A lot of people call them, to-do list or things to do list. As I point out in the book, man, to do something that sounds like a task and a job. I don't want to do that. I want to feel accomplished when I've completed something. So, after a number of the chapters, I have a TTA list and kind of outlines things that you can do and start doing to develop like a good habit, for example. And it's something that, at least through feedback I've received, has been beneficial for a number of people. And so I would say be on the lookout for that. But in terms of the content itself, look, for me, when it comes down to practicing giving and to practicing gratitude, when you do it with sincerity, it is life changing. I can promise everybody out there that this is true. It is life changing in terms of not just what you get out of it, but in the way you feel, the way you see things, the way you want to interact, with others. Please, if not this book, look at others, look at other resources. It's all good, right? I'd love for you to get, 1,000 of my copies of my book and hand them out to friends. Fantastic, right? But even if it's not through that method, read up and research for yourself, and understand that, what's written in this book, it's not just me as some guy saying, hey, I think this sounds good, so let me write this in here. No, it's all it's all proven. There's all the research that's done on it now already. So if you really want to try to make lasting and improve, and make changes in your life that will ultimately make your life that much better, please start practicing giving and being thankful, gratitude that you show for it.
Well, and speaking of giving, Christmas is coming around. That's a perfect gift for
Oh,
Christmas, right?
so it is.
Right.
And Adnan, thank you for saying that. It does make a great gift. The books, this is the cover. Hopefully you can see that.
Hmm.
It's not a war and peace type novel in terms of its length and thickness, right? So it's a fairly quick read, But here's something I'd like for everybody to know. Like I said, the book individually is priced right at about $10 per copy, plus shipping, handling, and all. However, I've arranged a deal with Ozark that says if there's an individual or a company or a nonprofit organization that wants to do something different for the holidays in terms of an appreciation gift for their employees or clients or vendors or people within their circle of life, if you order 40 or more of these copies, then you will receive them not only at a discounted price of $6 per copy, but you'll also get them shipped to you at cost. So it's not what the publisher pays plus a markup, it's at what the publisher pays to ship them. So, for that, I would just ask you to contact me directly because it's something I have to, be on a phone call with just to make sure everything is set up properly. But contact me directly through my website, which is creatingourreality.com. And you can learn more about what it is that I do as well as the book. And just hit the contact button and shoot me a little message, and we'll go from there.
Great. Yeah, I will definitely have all your links and contact information.
Thank you.
But actually, social media and your website on the description below. And I'm
Fantastic.
sure if they go in there, like you said, they'll be able to contact you.
Great.
Well, Anthony, thanks very much again for doing this today, and I'm certainly hoping that somebody would take this as a initial step today to get the book and start changing their life if they're sick and tired of waiting for change to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. And thanks so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate the opportunity. Happy holidays to you and your family, to everybody out there.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll definitely do this again sometime. So you take care.
Sounds great. You too.